Hey Hardies, I'm Casey.
And I'm Cammie. Welcome to the Hardies Hotline,
your connection to Hope Valley.
We want to give a shout out to our friends at Edify Films, where you can get fabulous When Calls the Heart merchandise, like my hat.
And you can also get a fun When Calls the Heart game from our friends at the Bundle Game. Be sure to use discount code Hardies Hotline for 10% off.
We've got a fabulous episode for you today, full of laughter, tears, and heart.
So take a walk with us to Hope Valley and let's dive in.
Welcome back, Hardies. We are inching closer to that season 8 finale. We have just watched season 8, episode 9, pre-wedding jitters. I've got pre-wedding jitters. Don't you, Casey?
Yes. Do I have goosebumps yet? It's getting there.
But before we go any further, we have to introduce a very lovely lady, someone that you probably all know and love if you're on Twitter, the color green, Erin. Hi.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
This is so great. I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too. Big hearts.
Yes. So, Erin, tell us a little bit about you, because we want to know just what state you're from, when did you become a Hardie, and what team are you on, if you feel it's safe to reveal it.
Yeah, I am from the Midwest. My accent may come out a little bit, so I apologize. My sister and I grew up on Janet Oak books, and this is kind of funny, but my very first literary crush actually came from the When Calls the Heart series when Delaney was like Dreamboat.
Yes.
She wrote him beautifully for like little middle school girls. I actually, my sister and I were like obsessed with those books growing up, and we were really into all those, Little House on the Prairie and Green Gables, all that kind of stuff. And so I remember when Hallmark had made the Love Comes Softly series, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I wonder if they would ever do the When, we call them the When ones because all the stories started with When, the When series, which is the When Calls the Heart series. And sure enough, some years later ends up popping up. So that was really exciting because that particular series, the When Calls the Heart one, was always my absolute favorite of her books. So yeah, that's how originally started from there. So I actually started watching it from day one, just because I was really pumped to see it come out with those.
I've always wondered what it would have been like to be a fan from day one, because neither Casey nor I are fans from day one. We found it later.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because in the very beginning, I'm trying to remember if I saw the movie first. I can't remember if I saw the movie or which one came out first, but I remember I was like floored at how well they brought in the story of the series to the book, because I couldn't figure out how they were going to do that, but having her be Elizabeth's aunt, Elizabeth is Elizabeth's aunt, whatever.
Yes.
I thought was just brilliant, a way to carry that story on. So I loved how they did that. But yeah, since day one. I know, crazy.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Now I'll tell you why I was not a fan from day one. Part of it's because I didn't have the Hallmark Channel. The other part of it, and I feel like you would appreciate this because you are an original Jeanette Oak fan. I watched Love Comes Softly, and I was very invested until they killed off Willie.
I'm with you. I stopped after that. Yeah.
Oh, I cried so hard when they killed off Willie. I was like, no, you can't do that.
I didn't cry. I was just in shock because I had read the books first. This does not happen in the books. They have a whole line of family and children and all the nephews and nieces. There are 3 series, I think, that spans through the Love Comes Softly series, if I'm remembering correctly. I was Nope. And then my friend told me When Calls the Heart, and I was like,
oh no, did you start well, no, you started watching it before season 5, right?
I started watching it before season 3 came out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I'm a newer, or like, well, I mean, I'm kind of up there in the originality.
Yeah, 3's a long ways away.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yes. I still haven't recovered from Willie LaHaye's death, but we don't have to go there.
Let's not. We're already dealing with one hero's death in this episode. Let's not deal with another.
See, I moved past him fairly quickly. Willie LaHaye, though, still clinging on since 2005.
Now, see, you're stuck on Willie LaHaye. I'm not in an unhealthy way, but I just love Jack. I'm not stuck on him in an unhealthy way, but my fourth child is nicknamed after him. I love Jack. I think that Jack and Elizabeth were an amazing miracle couple, and no, they weren't perfect and they had their flaws, but I just love Jack. So she's stuck on Willie, I'm stuck on Jack, but we're both able to move past it. Yes. All right. So speaking of love interests, Erin, are you ready to reveal what team are you on?
Well, this is probably just wild, but I am very much Team Nathan.
What? What a coincidence.
My goodness. Crazy, I know. Who would have thought?
Well, what drives you to Team Nathan? Like, what are some characteristics, or what are some aspects that have brought you to that conclusion?
Goodness, where to even start? I think one of the things I love about him is that he operates from a place of a humble strength. It's almost like leadership and humility, where he is such a helper at heart, and helper is like a big thing, like for me too. Like even that's a big thing with like teaching our son, like the importance of like a hero is a helper, like really understanding how important that is of being in a place of service in your life towards people. And I feel like that's just such a place that he operates from, which is where I think that draw to Elizabeth takes place too, is because she is someone who really operates from that place of being a helper. But I think too, there's such a grounding to him. The way that he took in his niece after his sister dies and took her on as his own. There's just such a selflessness and beautiful selflessness in every way, everything that he does. And it's not even in a way where he's like tacking the points. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's that's just what you do because comes from such a place of goodness in his heart. He's not perfect though. And I think that's important. An important distinction is he is a human and his character, whatever, but he's a flawed character. Mm-hmm. But that's what I think makes his heart so beautiful, is that even when he does make mistakes, he is always very quick to apologize, seek forgiveness, and move forward doing better. Mm-hmm. So there's a sense of like evolution in himself. Like he's comes from such a growth mindset that because of it, there's just a real beauty in that and a real like quiet strength that you see in that. My husband, I not to like put that in there, but my husband's very much like a quiet strength, and that's something that I really love about him as well. Is just some of those aspects. So who knows? Maybe there's some subconscious thing there too. But I think the way the writers have made Nathan is just absolutely a really incredible character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we all agree.
Yeah, we don't have time to get into all of that. So let's just move forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, we agree. And we'll get into some of that selflessness later on. But first, I made a note to myself because we keep on skipping over Jesse and Clara. We need to talk about Team Classy for a minute because we haven't talked about them in a while. And I thought that they made a big move in this episode. It was a bigger step towards healing because we kind of got to see her take Jesse back in last week's episode, but we didn't get to see too much of that. So we got to see another step in the healing process, I think, which I think is a very, very good thing. So let's talk about Clara and Jesse. I just want to say, for starters, I would have reacted the same way. They're sitting right by the food. They have everything laid out. They are sitting behind it. And they're eating. What other conclusion are you supposed? Now, I may or may not. I'm not going to say I would have done it either way because I don't know. But if I walked in after working all morning, all afternoon on this food that was supposed to be for a party, which steps it up a notch. It's not just, making food for my family, it's for guests. And I come in and I see my husband and his friend eating it. I would have been upset, so I probably would have had the same reaction. I
think she came off way too strong.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, she was like next level 11 up here. Especially after the whole, you spent all our money and now we're like flat broke. And then to have that reaction was just like, whoa, girl, you need to slow your roll. Okay. I don't know. I'm a reactive person too, but if my husband was with his brother or with a friend, I don't know that I would have flipped out like that. Yeah. I probably would have toned it down and I probably would have reacted with my face instead of yelling at them because that's a little embarrassing, especially for poor Hickam.
No, that's why I said that caveat. I don't know how I would have reacted, but I definitely would have reacted. All right, Erin, spill. What about you?
I thought the same. I thought two things. One, that was highly reactive, but also incredibly accusatory, really fast. That being said, if I had been in the kitchen doing that all day and I saw them, I very much see how that was her initial assumption. But I think the first thing out of my mouth would have probably been are you eating the food? Are you, you know what I mean? Are you eating the food? Question mark versus just this right into she was ready to just, yeah. And it seems like that's kind of her pattern a little bit, so that was really good in that sense that they really showed that. Mm-hmm. But it does make me wonder kind of deeper, what is going on actually with Clara, that there's always that kind of immediate assumption of Jesse is probably doing something wrong, as opposed to finding the good in him. There's always this immediate finding what's wrong with him. Not to say that he hasn't done some really silly things. So I understand where it's coming from, but it just felt really reactive. Yeah.
Yeah.
High reactive.
Yeah. Clara has picked up some bad habits.
Yeah.
She has picked up some bad habits that need a little bit of, need a lot of bit of changing, but but I was really proud of her. You know, because a lot of women in her situation, I think, would have reacted, seen that they were wrong, and then found a way to still keep it. You were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would have continued being accusatory to save face for them.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't. She immediately, I was really proud of her because yes, she reacted badly, but she immediately pulled it back. She said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please. And she tried to get Mike to stay, but I wouldn't want to stay if I were him either.
No.
Poor Hickam.
I know, poor Hickam. I will say, though, the fact that Minnie is now working in the cafe with her, I'm kind of hoping that she has, Minnie becomes kind of that mentor, especially with
soothing effects.
Her, you know, being married to Joseph, and they are a seasoned couple, and maybe that'll be something that'll be good for Clara to see. Because right now she's just like running to her single friends. And I'm like, girl, I get it. But at the same time, don't. Like, I have one rule for myself is I don't talk badly about my husband to my friends. Like, I don't just like air all our dirty laundry. You know what I'm saying? Because like, that's awkward. That's awkward for the friends to be like, oh, hey. You know, it's, and I've seen people do that where they just air their dirty laundry about their spouse. And I just feel really weird about that person, you know? So I just hope that she takes it to somebody who can actually give her some good, solid marriage counseling, because that couple really needs it.
And Minnie really has such you nailed it when you said it, like her presence. She has such a calming presence, her voice, her demeanor, everything. There's a strength in her, a real strength, but she just has this, I'm excited to just learn more and more about her through the seasons, because she really does have that. She just walks in and it feels like peace, like around her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's skip to Violadia Sarsaparilla. I thought that was such a cute way to open things up, because they hadn't really talked. They hadn't really talked since that incident. And so it's sweet when you see married people flirting with each other. And especially when you're trying to heal a wound. And so just very light, very easy, you know, taking in the context around her, Violadia Sarsaparilla. And so put him at ease. And then I know Casey's feelings on this scene. so Casey, why don't I let you say what, because I have the same thought. So go ahead. You take this one.
Okay, well, everything was going well for me in this moment until Jesse tells Clara, you have nothing to apologize for. And I was like, what? No. And I was watching with my not a Hardy husband, and he was like, and we both yelled at the TV at the same time. Like, that's not good, you guys. If my husband and I are agreeing about these things, I'm going to call the heart. That's not good. But marriage is a give and take. It's, you know, everybody's giving, you both give 100%. There's not this like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You apologize and I do this for you. You do, like, it's a blending of two lives. It's putting two people together. It's working with each other and all of that. And she did, like, yes, he spent all their money. And yes, that is like next level, 100% way worse than like maybe if he ate like a pot pie. Like, that's not in comparison. So for her to yell at him at that, like, extreme level, and then she apologizes for it, and he tells her she has nothing to apologize. I was like, yes.
Let her apologize.
Let her apologize. To just say, I accept your apology. And maybe if you feel bad, say, I'm really sorry for my flaws too, like, but don't tell her that she doesn't have anything to apologize for because her behavior was totally incorrect. Like, so disrespectful to him, and just like, and like I said, I'm talking about this one solo incident and her yelling at him and her apologizing for it. Like, he should have just taken the apology and just like, continued on that route, because they're both flawed. Like, he does not need to put Claire on this pedestal of the perfect, like, oh, you're right 100% of the time, because she's not, I really had a problem with that. I really, really did.
Well, and I feel like too, that's kind of Jesse's MO a little bit, which is sort of frustrating because I feel like I feel like he needs to
toughen up.
Yeah. Like, sometimes I just want to like, come on, man. He just, especially when it comes to Clara too. And I wish she was able to also see that too. Like how, they just, I'm not doing a very good job.
I will say this because I 100% agree that she did have something to apologize for, and Jesse should have just graciously accepted the apology. The fact that he said you have nothing to apologize for, what Eva did right there with her reaction, you could tell that Clara was, that's very sweet. So I think that Jesse was trying to make a gesture in exchange for her gesture. Don't agree with the way he did it, but Clara accepted the gesture and just let it go from there. Because I think you're right, Aaron, that it is kind of Jesse's MO. And so that was his way of apologizing. And maybe as his wife of a year now, Clara has kind of come to understand that a little bit more, especially after all these troubles.
Yeah.
So I think that even though I believe that he should have accepted the apology, the fact that she showed how much it meant to her that he would say that kind of was a way that it kind of stopped the chain reaction, I guess.
Yeah.
And then to be fair to Jesse too, like, we don't really know a lot about his backstory. We don't know if he saw a healthy, loving relationship with his parents or with anybody else. So, I mean, and at the same time, while I did give him a really hard time about telling Clara that, I can also understand it at the same time, especially if you've not had that before and you're just kind of going off of what you think might be right, So that's another reason why I really hope that they have a good, strong couple to, to go to. Yeah.
It kind of, go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say, it kind of reflected too a little bit, Jesse saying that about his inner dialogue about himself, is that his immediate reaction was like, no, you had nothing to apologize. That was almost his way of saying, you're right. I am a mess up. I am a failure. You're right. I think that's the part of it that bothered me, Casey, like where I'm with you on that, of where as his spouse, I'd want her to like jump and be like, no, you actually aren't. You are a good man. I was in the wrong. Because he already has that like convoluted idea of himself from his past or whatever else, that as his spouse, I would like to see her champion like a different self like identity for him. Instead of that, like, you're a mess up. You know what I mean?
No, it's true, because what she did in the beginning of their marriage, when he wouldn't put any of his stuff in the cafe, he didn't want to move any of his things in. That's the exact same kind of situation that's going on. And there she handled it correctly.
Yeah.
So she got all of his stuff. She made it all fit. She told him, this is your home too. So they have growing to do. There is no doubt about that. I think they'll find their way.
Yeah.
But
do you think Oh, really quick. Do you think he feels like he owes Clara something? Because it really was because of Clara that he changed his life around. He fell in love with a pretty girl, and she challenged him multiple times early on when he was like, bad boy Jesse, to like, you got to do the right thing and all of this stuff. And like, had Jesse not met Clara, he could have had a totally different life, and he might know that. So, and then knowing his past and how he was involved with gangs and all that stuff, like it might be also this thing about like he doesn't feel like he deserves Clara, and like he kind of owes her, like anytime he messes up, like, oh, like I'm putting her on this pedestal because I'm such an awful person, and she's like this perfect human being who didn't deserve anything that she went through. And, you know, just that kind of mentality. It is interesting to dive deeper into Jesse. So I'm really glad that y'all brought those up, because I was really upset last night, you guys.
If we ever get Aaron Buckles on the show, we are going to have to ask him that very question.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit here and let's have a little fun. Hickam and Fiona. Quick little shout out. Just the very first, when he is taking Ned to the barbershop to get Ned's hair cut for his bachelor party. I'm just an excuse for you to see Fiona. Oh, is she back? As if the date isn't circled on your calendar in red. I just laughed. I laughed that entire time. And then of course, when Molly closes the blinds and said, and I thought I was obvious in trying to get Bill Avery's attention. I was dying.
Oh man, they've got really good comedic timing.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
That was fantastic. I love Hickam so much. I love Ben. I love Hickam. I love that entire thing. And I love his crush on Fiona. I thought that was brilliant. That was just perfection. Just, yeah.
To be honest with you, I kind of miss Hickam like falling all over Rosemary. So I'm kind of hoping that he kind of reverts back to that with Fiona. Like, what do you want me to do, Fiona? Do you want me to make you a sign? I can make you a sign. Do you want it? Like, how high? You want me to jump? I'll go. Like,
he did a little bit of that when he was hanging her sign, but not as much.
Oh, we need more. We need Fiona to find some, like, I don't know, cats for something, and then he gets yelled at for needing to find them and put one on a diet, kind of like the doves. Like, you know, I would live for that.
But
I would do.
grown so much since season 2 and 3. He can't go back to being a complete puppy dog.
No, but in an endearing, mature sort of way.
So sweet.
It is.
It's so sweet. He is a catch. He is a Hope Valley catch.
He is a Hope Valley catch. It's about dang time that somebody realized it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have right here in my notes for him, congratulations on growing a spine. Because he he went right into that cafe. Like, good afternoon, all. And I thought he was going to back out. I thought he was going to turn around and go right back out. Bye now. You know, and he didn't. That I'm stopping by to see if you'd have dinner with me. And I was like, oh, go Hickam.
And in front of all her friends.
Yes.
Friends. And then people are starting to talk. And, you know, good on Fiona. Good on Fiona. She stands up. Let him talk. How about next week? I was like, yeah, girl. Because we've all been in that kind of situation. Maybe not the exact kind, you know, with all your friends around and a guy comes and asks you out. But there has been that time where we have been asked something that can be very embarrassing for a guy. And depending on our reaction is how he's going to feel, you know? And so I think that there's a future for Hickam and Fiona, but even if there isn't, I was so proud of her. And it's just dinner, we're just friends. Oh, of course. I was like, we need more of this. We need more of this. It's just so cute.
Oh, it is precious.
It's so cute.
It really is. And his boldness. And so beautiful.
Right. And when we're having a lot of drama, we need the levity. And so this whole interaction between Mike and Fiona was a great way for us to be able to laugh and have some levity and relieve that stress that we're feeling.
Yes.
I agree with you with that. And I feel like Hickam, Ben's character, has always just done such a great job when that's scattered throughout. Well, and Bill too. But yeah, I think that it helps the audience just like take a deep breath.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Shall we go dramatic, comedic, dramatic? Let's go to Carson and Faith. Yeah, I know, Casey, because I feel the exact same way.
Okay, I'll be honest with you guys. The song that comes to mind for Faith and Carson is Taylor Swift's "We Are Never, Ever, Ever Getting Back Together." I'm sorry, but that's the first thing I thought of. And it's because of it's their whole relationship right now, at least for season 8. And that makes me so sad to say.
So glad that was not Carson's proposal. Thank you.
Oh.
Like, no, I'm not proposing. That's not the way I would propose. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh man.
And when she said, let's just enjoy each other. I'm like, finally. Yes, please. That's what we've been saying all along. Thank you.
I'm really glad they went there instead, because I was like, I can't handle more drama with you guys. And here's my grouse, and here's the parody part of Never Ever Getting Back Together. There's a line in the song that says, I say I hate you, we break up, you call me I love you. It's like that back and forth. And that's what I feel with Carson and Faith, because not the love you and hate you thing, but it's like, I'm telling you, go take the fellowship. Don't take the fellowship. But you didn't take the fellowship? But now you really took the fellowship.
And you didn't talk to me about it.
And I really feel like I should write a parody, because it's like, I remember when we broke up the first time. I remember when you went to Chicago for the first time. Medical school the first time.
Oh my.
Saying this is it, I had enough, because we hadn't seen each other in a year. And
okay, that's brilliant.
We need to work on it. But I just the back and forth with them, especially with Faith. My frustrations are more with Faith than with Carson. Carson has been given a really great opportunity, and of course he's going to have those I don't know, I love it here. This is my home now. This is my family. My girlfriend is here. I love her and all of that. But then there's this great opportunity, because nobody ever wants to stay stagnant in their job.
And it's an incredible opportunity.
Right. And I just feel like Faith is not helping him at this point. In the beginning, I was like, okay, she's telling him it's okay. It's okay. But then she was also giving mixed signals, we're not even engaged yet. Wait, what? You're thinking about taking it? But then it's but last episode you told him to take it. What?
She was really confusing, and I love that they had Faith become a doctor. I thought that was awesome, especially in that time. You really didn't see women doing that, and so I absolutely love how they've taken her character like that. But it did feel like I actually at one point, when I was watching Paul, like Carson, he actually looked exhausted. And I was like, I don't know how you did that or like what you did to look like. He just looked exhausted of where he was like, right. I do not know what to do, because it seemed like he was really trying to do everything. Okay, I'll give it up. If that's the best thing for you, for me, then I'll give it up. Okay, I'll do it. Either way, you seem like unhappy. And
I'll do it, but come with me. Yeah, he's giving plenty of
every option. And you could just see the exhaustion on him of like, I don't really know what to do. And then to be fair, she literally pretty much said the same thing. I don't know what to do. So it's a tough one. And it did feel just like, oh man. Yeah. Heavy.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious to see where this is going, because right now, I honestly cannot tell you. I have I mean, I have a couple of theories, but I can't 100% commit to any of them, because I'm kind of leaving that one alone. And I just say, I'm going to see how this plays out. Because I know that we've talked about the idea is Paul leaving the show, which is completely a possibility, not something we want, but very, very possible, very plausible. And is Carson going to take the fellowship, and is Faith going to decide that staying in Hope Valley as the town's doctor is the way to go? And I mean, she even says, I want what's best for both of us, even if that means not being together. That's a big statement, which shows that she does love him enough to let him go. She just needs to say it.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, and she rather than say it, because she did just say it. So rather than just say it, she needs to commit to that idea. Because she doesn't quite understand. I don't think she quite understands herself. And I think that is a very big theme with a couple of the women in this episode. We got it with Faith. We got it with Clara. And we got it with Elizabeth. We'll talk about that in a minute. But these three women don't understand themselves, much less anybody else around them. So we're gonna give them a little bit of leeway, because we get it. Hopefully things will get resolved.
I just need Faith to like slow down for a second. Like just slow down, think everything out, and then talk to Carson, because it just feels so like she's just spewing out the first thing that comes into her head. And I'm like, for an established couple, this is very jarring. Like, this is just jarring for me. Very, like, ugh. I've already got enough drama in Hope Valley. I don't really need you guys to be another side of the drama.
But, I mean, we wanted characters that felt real.
Yeah.
That's true.
This is a very real dilemma. Maybe not so much in 1917, but this is a very real dilemma for a lot of people this day and age.
Fair enough.
Okay, let's take a break from romance for a minute. Let's talk about Henry and Christopher. Whoa.
Can I just say, when he started telling Christopher about the woman that changed his life,
okay, yes,
I thought he was talking about Nora Avery.
Yes, that is what I thought. I did too. You too, Erin?
I did too. And then I saw a shout out to Father Randy, who has his handle Abigail Come Home. Yeah. I saw his little handle pop up on the feed, and I was like, oh right, Abigail.
Okay, so, I'm glad I'm not the
all
only
three
one.
of us were in sync.
I totally thought it was Nora.
I didn't even pick that up until much later, scrolling through tweets, and I was like, oh, she's the one that left town.
Because Nora's mother is no longer living. She was always taking care of her father. And so okay, yeah. See, that's what triggered it for me, was when he said she left town to take care of her mother. I went, oh my. Well, that just confirms what we all already knew, that Henry was in love with Abigail.
So I have a question. Do you guys think that was kind of setting the stage in case Lori was to return? Like they have like an opening by Henry saying that?
This is the second episode in which Abigail has been mentioned, and she has not been mentioned in a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think it could be one of three things, I'll say. Number one, John Tinker did his research. Mm-hmm. He did his research big time in watching all the old episodes and bringing a lot of old stuff back. And he wanted to really recall a lot of stuff from the past so that it would connect, which I thought, obviously, it's doing it very, very well. Number two, they don't want Abigail as a character to fall into the black hole. Mm-hmm. Because she was so tied to the success of the town, mm-hmm. And she's very tied to the characters, that they don't want her to fall into the black hole like Jack. They don't want Jack's character to fall into the black hole. Mm-hmm. And then the third option is exactly what you said, Erin. Who knows? Who knows what the future brings? Who knows what the circumstances will be a little bit later on down the line? Maybe it could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. And I think it's nice to have that continuity, especially because, she was such an important piece of Hope Valley. And I mean, it just makes sense. I think it's kind of like, in Fuller House, when they reference Becky taking care of her mom back east, it's like she's still very much a part of that realm, that world. She's just not there. So I think it's I think it's a nice nod, just because regardless of what happened in real life, in this fictional world, we don't want to forget about Abigail. We don't want to forget about the things that she's done, the influences that she's had on people and everything. So I think it does set it up nicely in the event that they have her back. It's not going to be this whole like, wait, you weren't mentioned for 6 seasons and now you're what? So I think that's a nice touch.
What do you think, Erin? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I kind of wondered that too. One thing that I will also say that you mentioned, Cammie, is I'm amazed at John Tinker's ability to really pull from so much stuff in the past. He's really done an excellent job of that. It really
has
helped make the stories feel so fleshed out, like the layers and everything that he added and weaved in there. But I did, because like you said, it happened twice. It did make me wonder if there's like kind of setting that like hopeful stage of like, if it were to work out, we still have that. But either way, if there was a season where I ever felt like Abigail was needed or like where her presence was missed, I feel like it was this season, because Elizabeth has needed the voice of Abigail so bad this year. And so I really appreciated just those real subtle shout outs to her of even just like whether we're going to sell Abigail's Cafe and, or the mention with Henry, it made her feel real again, which then made that presence feel missed, which I thought was it was almost a character within a character. Yeah. Because even though she's not physically there, you could actually feel her missing a bit in Abigail's life.
Mm-hmm. Either way, I think it's a big nod of respect.
Yeah.
It's either way, either it's a nod of respect to the character of Abigail and the work that Lori did on her. Mm-hmm. And for all that past work that went into Abigail, and then if she does not return, then it's that nod of respect. And if she does return, then it's a nod of respect that they're open and they recognize what Abigail has done for the town. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I definitely agree. So, I don't condone Henry how do I say this? I do not condone Henry pushing his son out of town and not letting him own up to the mistake and then burning those shoes at the very end. I went, oh, Henry, what are you doing? This isn't going to end well.
Yeah.
I mean, his heart is in the right place. He doesn't want his son to end up in jail, a bad person, the way he has felt he was. Well, and let's face it, for those first several seasons, he was a bad man.
Yes.
So, but he has gone through this very, very big, long, slow stage of redemption. Mm-hmm. And he's and just like Christopher said, you turned out good. Well, the jury's still out on that. But I think that we can all agree that Henry is trying his very hardest to become a good man. Mm-hmm. Whether or not he's reached it, as far as he's concerned, that's still up for debate. But he is doing the best he can to become a good man. Mm-hmm. So his heart was in the right place, but it's only going to get worse if a cover-up is discovered. That's how the mine disaster happened.
Which, okay, I had a question. I'm curious what you guys thought. You know how right before he burns the boots, he says to Bill, like on his way out, he mentions like, hey, if you want to discuss the mine, I can like give you some more information about all of that. It felt like he was essentially basically like offering himself up in order to like basically sacrificing himself in order to get his son saved, which I feel like for Henry is in many ways, it's a beautiful thing to be like, okay, I'd rather get myself in trouble in order to save him. But then still at the same time puts him in this cycle though, again, of kind of the moral compass has that little tilt to the left, little tilt to the left. But I was curious about that though, because I thought the mind stuff had been settled. So that's where I was a tiny bit confused of why he said that.
There were a couple of tiny bit confusing tidbits concerning Henry. I mean, number one, Lucas contacted Christopher and knew that he was his son and got him to come to Hope Valley to keep an eye on him. I was like, wait, hold on, what? You know, and then the mine thing. I don't know exactly what else there is to discover. I will say this though. I think that kind of like what you said, it's Henry's way of sacrificing himself, but it's also a way to soothe his guilty conscience. Yeah. You know, I just did another cover up, but I'll make up for it by offering up even more information about the mine, even though I have no idea what else there is to discover. Yeah. What's your take, Casey?
Yeah, that was all a little interesting. Confusing with Christopher and Lucas and all of that, because nobody knew that Gowan had a son. Like the shock on Elizabeth's face, like, wait, what? I lived here how long, and now who is this guy? So like that felt a little bit out of left field. But I will say, despite me not condoning Gowan and his, weaselly little ways, I have to say, I appreciate the fact that Gowan is still inherently Gowan still. Like, I think we still need that, because yes, we want to see him turn his life around to a 180, but that doesn't happen overnight. that's kind of unrealistic. It's a slow thing and people get tempted by different things. And so I kind of liked seeing the humanity in Gowan in that moment of him burning the shoes. I definitely did an audible gasp, like, what? Like, whoa. But then at the same time, I was like, you know what? We kind of need that antagonist. We need Gowan as an antagonist, because otherwise, I mean, Hope Valley would need somebody else to kind of cause some trouble.
I know Christopher's gone now, so who's going to be the troublemaker?
Right, exactly. So I'm here for it. I'm here for, a little bit of little mischievous Gowan, evil Gowan, not so evil that, we hate him, but just enough to keep things spicy.
No, it's true. And so one thing I will say, because I thought it took me watching it twice. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And Lucas never says, I knew he was your son. He said, I found his name and address. So among the paperwork, when you turned over the books to me, I found his name and address. Okay. Maybe, he found the name, he found the address. He figured out that Christopher was connected to Henry somehow. And so then he rung him up and they started talking, and then they kind of got, they got a little bit more of the details between each other. But, a lot of Hardys called it when Christopher was digging the ditch and Lucas and Christopher were having that argument. There's bad blood between them. What are you talking about? The kid just showed up. How could he possibly have bad blood between him and Lucas? But I mean, I will stand corrected completely and totally 100%. They called it. That was, there was a bit of a tiff between them because they had history that we just found out about. So,
yeah.
But one thing I will say, right or no, when they hugged and they both said, and Christopher said, I love you. I'm like, oh, dang it.
Oh, it was so good. Oh.
Because you can tell that Henry truly does love his son. His actions are questionable, but his motives are most of the way pure.
Yeah.
And it seems like when Henry is shown love, he responds like he responds. It's almost like the true self comes out when he, like, because we saw that with Abigail, we've seen it now with Chris. It seems like his true self, like almost the goodness really of who he really is as a person, comes out when he's shown love. And I think that is kind of a plain point sometimes for him too, of where maybe he starts turning into that like trickery a little bit, is how much he really needs to have that like affirmation and in love in his life, and it goes to show how long it's been missing that. When you do see those glimpses, it's like you really see Henry, like the real Henry in those moments. And my gosh, Martin does phenomenal in those scenes. I'm just like, oh my gosh, just tearjerkers every time. Yeah.
I feel, this is kind of a weird sentiment for me to have, but I feel a little bit for Bill here, because Bill and Henry begrudgingly have become friends-ish,
frenemies.
yeah, frenemies.
They kind of have a mutual respect for each other. They may not like each other, but they recognize that the other has their uses in town. And they can coexist peaceably most of the time. And, Bill is just dead set on getting this case solved. And by the way, shout out to Brookfield, When Hope Calls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The kid took the joyride in Brookfield. Yeah, go When Hope Calls.
Good catch. Yeah.
So I was, that just kind of made me giggle. Like, yes, season 2, When Hope Calls. Yes, let's do it. But anyway, I do feel for Bill because he he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because he is figuring it out. He wants justice done, and he went to great lengths to figure all that out, the whole top down thing, and then putting his foot up. Oh man, dude, you are on some kind of roll here. But then you can tell that when Henry is offering up information about the mine, Bill's conflicted. He doesn't want to cause pain to Henry. He just wants justice. But in seeking justice, that'll cause pain to Henry. So I do feel a little bit for Bill there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I know, weird sentiment, but there it is. Okay. Shall we go to the shape with the 3 points and the 3 angles?
Woo.
We're going to have to cut out some of this laughing.
Casey's face with the triangle was great.
I'm laughing so hard because it was so bad. It was so bad.
Oh, the triangle.
Okay.
Let's talk about Elizabeth and her grief. I think
that's a good place to start because go ahead. Finish your thought.
I think that starting at Elizabeth with her grief will bring a lot of perspective. Because I'm not going to lie, I was really upset with her last night. I was really, really frustrated with Elizabeth. I was really frustrated with her actions. I was just so done with it, right? But like taking a step back, having some sleep, and just kind of like sitting down, I'm like, I don't get it because I've never been there. I've never been in her shoes. But from an outsider looking in, and like objectively, like forget Nathan, forget Lucas, focusing on Elizabeth and looking at her objectively, I can almost see where she's coming from. I can see why she's reacting the way she is. I mean, we've said this multiple times. She didn't really have a lot of time to grieve when Jack passed away. It was so sudden and so fast, and everything just happened so quickly. I mean,
and they had been married for so short a time.
Right. They've been married for so short a time. She got pregnant right away. And then it was just like, motherhood and then teaching. And there's just so many things. And I think that we can tell from Elizabeth, her opening her heart to love again is triggering that memory of Jack. And I think it's almost like she feels like she's betraying Jack's memory by opening up her heart, because she can't even talk about Jack to anybody. Like Minnie mentioned it and she just shut that down. I mean, and I don't say this flippantly, but you would almost think that after 3 years, it wouldn't be as touchy of a topic, because, and especially because that person was like, Minnie wasn't even delving in deep. She was just saying like, oh, I'm so,
it must be fresh
sorry,
for you.
It must be fresh for you. And she just changed the topic.
Elizabeth kind of proved that point, didn't she?
Right. I mean, I would think that the reaction would have been like, yes, thank you for your condolences, and then move on. She just like did this like body language, like closed body language, and then like just changed the topic. And even with Rosemary, I mean, oh boy. Elizabeth is not herself. Grief does some really strange things to people at times. And I know Shakespeare says in A Comedy of Errors, oh, grief hath changed me since you saw me last. And shout out to the Post Bills again. But anyways, but it's true. I mean, grief does change people, and it's a cycle. It's a cycle of just all the emotions and all of the what ifs and what could have beens, and angry at yourself, angry at other people, lashing out. Like closing yourself to people. It's tricky. And I think like for me, I needed to justify that in my mind for Elizabeth, because I really was frustrated with her. I was frustrated with the fact, like, how she treated Rosemary, most especially.
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of all of that, you know, number one, you hit the nail on the head that opening her heart feels like she's betraying Jack. And then put on top of that, that she just found out that he died because Nathan wasn't in the stead, which can be akin to losing him all over again. And so it floods it all back. So I too was not happy with Elizabeth, and she made one admittance when she and Lucas were in the school. I'm not myself. Like, okay, she admits it.
Yes.
Because I was also very frustrated with her, and you know, we've kind of put the friendship of Rosemary and Elizabeth on a pedestal. You know, speaking of pedestals, I think that us as fans, I think all of us have kind of put that friendship on a pedestal and just kind of rolled our eyes and laughed whenever one of them did a flub up, because it was never anything serious inside the friendship. And now we have a very serious tiff, which is real life. Best friends fight. Best friends let their emotions come into that relationship. So it was very, very real. Even though it was very frustrating to watch, it was very real. And it also, I 100% believe that it stems from this grief that hits you in waves. And I mean, my mother lost my father 10 years ago now. And sometimes it's very far away. And then there are just days where it feels like it happened yesterday and she breaks down. It's just all part of the healing process, I suppose, of losing a spouse.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about Rosemary and Elizabeth, though? In this episode, Rosemary specifically tells Nathan about the trouble that she caused for Jack and Elizabeth. And yes, but who was hurt in that relationship? It was Elizabeth with the whole Rosemary thing. Like, Rosemary was the mean one. Elizabeth was the hurt one. I just find it interesting that Rosemary calls it back and then the tables just turn on her. And this is the first time that we've seen Rosemary very hurt by Elizabeth's actions and by what she said, you know, and especially because we all know Rosemary can be some kind of a busybody, and sometimes she just says things that shouldn't be said or in a way that shouldn't be like repeated or anything. But her intentions were completely pure and very honest. And I mean, very nicely said. It was not offensive. It's just Elizabeth took it the wrong way because of her situation and what she's been going through and what she's feeling. So I thought that was a kind of a nice callback and also kind of a nice twist to bring that portion back with Rosemary and Elizabeth's relationship beginning and then twisting it and then having it be the opposite reaction. So I thought that was a very unique storytelling there.
Yeah. And also the fact that that Rosemary, I was proud of her for sticking to her guns. She did not back down because it was the truth. You know, Elizabeth just does not want to hear the truth right now because she's not ready to deal with it. But girlfriend stuck to her guns, and I was proud of her, you know, because Elizabeth needed to hear that. She needed to hear Jack's death is not Nathan's fault. I did not say that. Do you want me to tell you what I said, or do you want to assume? You know, she's kind of calling her out, and Elizabeth is not ready for that. And so she lashes out. So, but I was very proud of Rosemary for sticking to her guns. But then also she's trying to hint to Nathan, hey, honey, I've been exactly where you are, and it caused a lot of pain. You might want to ease up. And he didn't listen. And, and, there's something to be said for the fact that he's not giving up, but we'll get to that in a second. So.
Well, and there is a distinction there too. Jack told Rosemary that he didn't want to be with her anymore. His heart was with Elizabeth. Elizabeth has never said that to Nathan.
Yeah.
If she would just say that, this entire thing would be solved. But she's never said that. She just is quiet because of obvious reasons. But I think that's a big distinction too between them, is like, he's not giving up, but also because I think he sees and he knows what's really going on, and he's willing to like patiently wait her through what she needs to walk through. Because I really feel like in some ways, and this is just my opinion, I'm not saying it's gospel truth or anything, but I feel like Elizabeth hasn't ever really faced the trauma that she experienced, because Jack dies, and the way he dies is an extremely traumatic way. So she very much went through and I don't use the word lightly, a trauma in his death.
Yeah.
But then she got pregnant right away and had to shift gears so fast to becoming a mom. And the way that we even saw in the past seasons too, when she becomes a new mom, is she just kind of forces herself to move on in life. And in many ways, that's survival. That's what you have to do to be a single mom. And hats off to her, because that is a tough job and she did it beautifully. But at the same time, because of that, she didn't really have room to be able to do that. And I think maybe didn't even have room, but didn't want to. And so she just built up all those reinforcements around her so that that can't be touched. And then when Nathan walks in her life, every time she sees him, it's doing a drawback and a reminder to that place and that trauma. Like you said, Casey, it's triggering her back. And when he then tells her he loves her, it's like it really comes into that place of, okay, I either have to walk through this or I must shut it down or run from it. And I feel like Nathan sees that. I mean, he's had enough pain in his life, in his own life, and enough grief walks that he's had to journey through that I think they see one another, and it terrifies her that he probably does see that in her. And so in a way, it does almost feel like we're seeing her at rock bottom kind of for the first time. Like, not that it wasn't rock bottom when he died, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
But it's like, this is really, okay, now we have to really face this. Like the only way you're ever going to be able to heal is if you walk through it, and it's going to be awful, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be so painful, but that's the only way, or else those walls are just going to keep going up, and then she's never going to be able to really feel in life. Yeah. So it does feel like in many ways we're actually finally seeing Elizabeth deal with, or start to have to deal with, the grief and the trauma.
And, you made a really good point about her being at rock bottom. And I would say she is at rock bottom at this point, because at the time of Jack's death, she had the whole community that surrounded her.
Yes.
Right now, everybody wants to help her. Minnie wants, there's Minnie, there's Joseph, there's the Coulters, there's even Lucas. I mean, regardless what you think of the triangle, these people are trying to be there for her, but she is shutting them out. And she is trying to make it just her own business and be solo in it. But we all know that you need people to bring you up from that. And because she doesn't know how to handle that. She doesn't know how to bring those people into, she doesn't want to be helped, it seems, in a sense, because I feel like if she goes there, she's going to be vulnerable, because she always
wants to
been
be the helper.
Yes. And so I think that's a really good point that you make, is like, we're like literally seeing her at rock bottom, because even that last is like run-in with Lucas at her door. I mean, at first it was that playful banter, like, oh, haha, funny.
He was downright laughing at her.
Yeah.
And
and
cute.
Good for him. Good for him to, kind of like, hey, it's not a big deal. Like, it's fine. It was just a game, But then when he goes into the whole asking about Nathan and what did you tell him? And she's like, I kind of just walked away, and you can see the hurt on his face. And it was like for Lucas, it was almost like he's saying, like, what are you even saying to me right now? What are you doing?
What am I supposed to glean from that?
Where's the hope in you telling me this? Because, I thought I had it in the bag, and now you're telling me that the door is cracked a little bit. So I think there's,
I really felt for Lucas in this episode. I feel like he's kind of trying to, like, it's a very confusing and tricky situation that they are all in this. But like, it did feel like he was kind of trying a bit to just be there for her and to understand, but she will not give him anything. To be fair, we saw that in reversal, the previous episode, of where they're really, Laura Lynn actually did a really great blog post on that, Colorado Hardy, about like how neither of them seem to be really letting themselves in on their heart stuff. It kind of just stays in this one place. But it did feel like Lucas was kind of trying a little bit this time. And it was not, she's siloed in her grief. Like, it's not, that door is not going to be opened by anyone except for her. Yeah. And it did feel like he's starting to know, and he's really seeing what's going on. And like you said, that door's cracked.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are beginning to see that.
One thing I just want to say about Lucas is when she was being held at gunpoint, when Elizabeth was being held at gunpoint by Amos Dixon, and he kind of wrenched her arm a little tighter behind her back, Lucas got this very tiger protectiveness look on his face, like he was about to pounce that man and strangle him with his bare hands if he touched her one more time. And I noticed that we saw a little bit of that return when she told him in the school that Nathan had shared the Fort Clay thing about, and he's just now telling you this. He was getting frustrated, and he said, with your permission, I'd like to go find out. I'm like, oh gosh, somebody's mad. Somebody's getting the tiger instinct back.
Yeah.
It was subtle, but it was there. And he really put on the protective instincts because he wants to protect her feelings.
He does. Yeah.
He really does.
He does.
We're all team Nathan, but we totally accept the fact that he cares for her very deeply, and he wants to be there for her, and he wants her to be happy. Yeah.
And he's a good man. Like he's a wonderful, he's a wonderful person. I think that somehow gets lost in the teams, unfortunately, is I'm team Nathan, but I love Lucas. I think he's a fabulous character. I love that he treats Elizabeth always with a place of honor. I think he's always done her really well with that. But like you said, we got to see some of that protectiveness finally. I love when you see a little zhuzh you don't necessarily, it's always good to see that. But it was definitely clear that she was not open to that.
Yeah. She's really got to start opening up. Like, I don't know how you get past this or open your heart up to just people helping you, but people are definitely beginning to see right through Elizabeth at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the library with Rosemary and Nathan, Rosemary is trying to be really helpful and treading very lightly. And then Nathan's like, love is worth fighting for is basically what he said. You see this look on her face where she's like, oh, this is different than me and Jack. you can totally see it on her face because she's kind of like, oh, like this is different. This is totally different. Where she's seeing it from Elizabeth's point of view, because we see it multiple times when she has her interactions with Nathan and she has her interactions with Lucas. You can see Rosemary in the background kind of go, this is something's not right here, or there's something going on. Like, she's got those really powerful instincts. And so I think, she just, I don't know. It's very interesting to see people starting to kind of pick up on these things. And then again, with Lucas too, like, he's definitely picking up. There's a reason why the camera pans to him watching the interactions between Nathan and Elizabeth. That is not done for fun, because there are 43 minutes in an episode. They've got to cram all of this stuff in, and everything is purposefully placed not to waste a moment. And so, Cammie and I were talking offline a little bit about this. And one thing you mentioned, Cammie, is you don't know how anybody's going to recover from this, honestly. I mean, I think a lot of us are beginning to see what is possibly going to be a Nathan and Elizabeth ending, just because of everybody loves a good underdog. And of course, Hallmark's going to do it for the ratings. But storyline wise, I said this last week, I'm like, how do you go up from here if Nathan is supposed to be end game? And you mentioned to me early this morning, how where are we going from here?
I did.
It's almost like a tragedy has to happen to Nathan, or some kind of, I don't know, bomb drop for Elizabeth to just realize it, like in Anne of Green Gables, Gilbert's dying.
Got scarlet fever.
Yeah.
We think he's dying, and then she's like, oh. So
let's talk about two Nathan moments for a minute. Number one, the hand holding. Before Elizabeth called him Lucas, for those 3 seconds, I just went, oh. My team Nathan heart was fangirling big time. It's just, I mean, hey, okay, you guys back me up. Maybe, I don't know, I could be totally in left field here, but the way that Nathan was holding her hands, did that totally remind you of the way Jack held her hands?
I didn't pay attention to how Jack held Elizabeth's hands. Sorry.
Oh, I did. Especially in the wedding.
Well, I don't remember Jack's hands, but I will say one thing I noticed was, did you guys notice he was rubbing her hand with his thumbs? It was real subtle, but there was such a tenderness in that moment of
squeeze them, just
hands,
and
eyes. Oh my goodness. You could just tell, he's so he loves this woman so much.
For those 3 seconds before she called him Lucas, I was in heaven. And then I went, oh.
Yeah, I couldn't look from the time she go from Carson, and I was like, oh no, it's coming. Oh gosh, it's coming. It's coming.
Bad idea.
I couldn't watch it. I could not watch it. I was like, apparently I can't watch anything with Elizabeth and Nathan at this point, and I can't watch anything with Elizabeth and Lucas at this point either. If you heard me last week and my kid screaming at me that Lucas is kissing Elizabeth. They're kissing. I was like, no. Oh yeah. I couldn't watch the hand holding thing because I was like,
yeah.
And then I was kind of giddy at this because I called it. And Casey, you and I have kind of talked about this, that Nathan asked for a transfer to Hope Valley. I was like, oh yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was another piece of my fan fiction that I wrote before Nathan even came on screen. So I said, "Oh wow, I called it." Very different way, but
way to go.
But
But you know what, with Nathan requesting a transfer, because I know there's some people that are like, what are you doing? That's part of his PTSD.
Yeah.
Him requesting a transfer to Hope Valley is part of his PTSD, because it's almost like in his mind, he's thinking, okay, if I do this, I can just be under the radar. Like, he's so close to himself, and he's focusing on like how he can make himself feel better about the situation, because right now it's a really terrible situation to basically feel like you're the cause for somebody else's death. And that's a running theme. We saw that in season 1 with what's his name?
With Wendell Backus.
Wendell Backus was sick and asked his friend to cover, and then the mine exploded and he died. And then Wendell just went on a drinking rampage. That's how he coped with that.
Doug and Jack.
You see that with Doug and Jack. Jack felt so guilty about that, and his mom told him, "You are not the cause for Doug's death." I mean, we see this multiple times, and so it's interesting to see how these characters take, like, how they cope with that PTSD survivor's guilt. And for Nathan, I really think it was like out of the goodness of his heart, he felt the need to make sure that she was going to be okay. Not in the sense of like, oh, a woman needs saving, but it's the wilderness, it's the prairie. Gangs happen.
I took her husband. I have to go make sure that she's protected.
Right.
Instinct.
I don't think it's I don't think it was because of love or anything. I really think it was because he is a Mountie, he obviously is very noble, and that was his sole mission, was just to make sure he can kind of fly under the radar and keep an eye on her as a tribute to Jack.
Yeah, I almost wanted to cry when I found myself falling in love with you. I felt I was betraying Jack and his memory, and then he reaffirms it. I fell in love with you. Well, there is no doubt of where he stands.
Yeah.
Which, wasn't that also, Casey, what you were saying about Elizabeth with like her feelings for Nathan? Or I think you were saying that. Yeah. About how it almost feels like she's betraying, or maybe that was you.
Yeah.
She's betraying
Casey.
Okay. That she's betraying her love for and her marriage and everything with Jack by admitting to like these strong feelings towards Nathan. So it's interesting how they kind of are like, and possibly reflecting themselves, which again goes into that whole, like, really probably being able to see one another. And I think that scares her because of the fact that their journeys are so paralleled. They're so entwined. They're so woven together. It is forcing her to face something that she does not want to face, which goes back to the plaque, which hopefully we will see again soon.
We want to see the plaque.
That she will learn to always do what she's afraid to do, because boy, is that not the theme of the season, is like with facing that trauma of like getting to that place of surrender is going to require that in every way.
Yeah. I just want to do a very, very quick shout out to the scene with Lucas and Allie, because that was incredible. I said, Lucas, my hat is off to you, sir, because he could have handled that very, very differently. And he is absolutely determined to not get that child in the middle of it. And he leaves her out of it. He said, so since I would rather you not bite my ankle, how about you let your uncle and me handle this between ourselves? You're brilliant. He is legitimizing her feelings while at the same time saying, it's okay. We will take care of it. You do not need to worry about this anymore. And then I want to know what's in the box. I want to know what's in the box.
It's a book of card tricks, I'm telling y'all.
Oh, probably. I bet you're right. Well, and going back to card tricks, he always has had such a really beautiful, tender spot to Allie, like from the first time they met, where he taught her the card trick to even this. And I really, really appreciate that they are showing that for Lucas, so that there really is this soft, tender side scene to him, in regards to not just like the triangle and who's involved, but like also just towards a kid. And, you know, makes me wonder too, if there's something about Allie that like he sees himself in a little bit, or something that he has like just that tenderness towards, but he's always treated her very much, in just a really, almost as like you said, he validates her anytime he talks to her. And I think that's just a really, really neat quality.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We cannot end this episode without talking about our Flo, yo.
No.
Oh,
So sweet.
so sweet. They are the couple that we live for this season.
Oh, they really are.
Oh,
This is my Ned.
I know. Oh, that was so precious. Oh.
And she says it in her Florence Blakely matter-of-fact, a little bit of a crisp voice. You know, I'm just like, wait a minute, where's the matter-of-fact tone? But then she hugs him. You know, but it was so matter-of-fact. Oh, this is my Ned. Ah.
Sweet.
I did love how Fiona disclaimed the game was like, might be a little risque, and Florence is like, oh.
Ooh.
Oh, they're so sweet.
That shot when Molly and Rosemary are on either side showing her the dresses, and you can see them in the mirror, and she's going back and forth. I mean, one of my favorite aspects about looking at an actor and how good they are is if they can say the same word in 100 different tones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you've watched the 1995 BBC version of Pride and Prejudice, when Elizabeth is reading the letter from Edward, from the uncle, saying that everything will be taken care of as far as Lydia is concerned. Mm-hmm. And she keeps looking up and asking him questions, and he keeps saying, read on. And he says it in 100 different ways. Mm-hmm. And I use that anytime I'm coaching somebody or anything. That is what it means to be an actor, to find different ways to say things. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but the way that Loretta found 10 different ways to say no, I just went, girl, I love you.
Oh, yes. And then we can't wait for the wedding next week. Oh, so fun. Oh,
so sweet.
Oh my gosh, they are so cute.
They are so sweet. I'm so excited. I mean, for such a heavy season, they have been really a breath of fresh air. And I am really glad they brought this storyline in, because every other couple in the series just about is having some kind of like
trouble. We'll leave it at trouble.
I mean, we haven't had much from the Coulters. We really haven't had a lot from the Canfields, but like everybody else, there's just kind of, ooh. So this has just been such a delight to watch. Like, just hashtag FloYo, Team FloYo. Hats off to like Loretta Walsh and Rothgar Matthews, because like, amazing. Thank you.
I think too, there's some, just like almost for like, I think it's really cool how, for continuity's sake, you could say, but also just the overarching like theme of this entire show, that they have one of the original widows from the mines in season 1.
Yes.
Go like finally, now it's like, especially in the 2 years now since Elizabeth has been a widow, we always see this point where another widow gets married, kind of showing these like little like lighthouses of hope still, of like that there will be, there's love is still there. Like, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your heart. Don't give up on what's coming. So just the drawback of all these widows one by one, I think is really a beautiful thing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Gonna take me a second to catch my breath. We've done a lot of jabbering. So Hearties, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed this recap. Erin, thank you so much for coming on and chatting up this episode of When Calls the Heart with us. It was a pure delight.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor. I love you guys. Seriously, this was too fun.
We'll have to do it again.
Yes! You guys are the best.
So where can people find you on social media so they know where to get all of these deep insights?
Oh yeah. Deep. So you can find me at the Color Green, THEE Color Green.
All right. Take care of yourselves, all of you Hearties, and we will see you next week with